Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS Friday night NBA. We got 8 games on the board. As far as Thursday night, it was a good one. Went 2-1 in NBA. I also want to bet on Murray State. So actually my bets went 3-1 last night. I didn't post the Murray State one on the website though. I posted it in the Discord. That's it. So I went 2-1 in NBA. My only loss was the Knicks money line, and that was my smallest bet of the night. 2 big bets hit. You love to see it. That's the good news. The bad news is this slate sucks. This Friday night slate, I mean, there's 2 bets. I have 2 bets right now. There's 8 games. We'll go through them. Not seeing a ton of value, at least that I could find. Let's talk about it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. Cleveland's on the road in Charlotte here. As you probably guessed, Cleveland has not had problems with the Hornets this year. They've swept the series. They've played Charlotte 3 times. They won all 3 by double digits. Although I will say the last time these 2 teams played was January 5th. Charlotte was catching 16. They lost by 10, so they actually covered the number. But yeah, bottom line, Cleveland has not had any problems with this Hornets team this year. Not going to spend a ton of time on this game. Not only are we talking about one of the best teams in the NBA against one of the worst teams in the NBA, but we're also talking about the Charlotte Hornets and their terrible 3-point defense against an NBA offense that shoots a bunch of threes. In fact, one of the most elite 3-point shooting teams in the league, and that's just been a nightmare for the Hornets this year. They've been so bad trying to defend the 3-point shot on the season against teams in the top 5 of 3-point frequency, so against teams that take a lot of threes. 3-9 against the spread, against the top 10, 7-13-1. Against the spread. So, I mean, I don't see any reason to try and get cute here and take Charlotte. The truth is Cleveland can win this game by 30 points if they want to. Next. Quick injury update in this one, and it's not on the Cleveland side. As of right now, looks like the Cavs are going to be at full strength here. They have Saturday off as well, so I really don't see any reason the Cavs would rest anybody here. But on the Hornets side, Mark Williams has been ruled out. It looks like all the other main pieces are going to play. They're listed as probable. I mean, who knows? We've seen LaMelo Ball as a mysterious late add to the injury report, so who knows? As of right now, looks like the Hornets are going to be without Mark Williams, and that's it. Utah on the road in Toronto. This is actually an interesting matchup here. I know a lot of people are going to skip over this game. I actually kind of like the angles in this one. So in the last 10 games, Utah 6-4 against the spread. Raps are 5-4-1 against the spread. But more importantly, we've got the Utah Jazz against a bad offense. And this is crazy. Check this out. So in the last 10 games, the Raptors are 28th in offensive efficiency. They've been playing all right on the defensive side of the ball. But in terms of scoring, the Raptors have been bad. Now, you might think, Kyle, who cares? The Jazz defense is terrible. But check this out. The Utah Jazz have been an absolute machine against bad offenses. Against bottom 5 offenses this year, they're 5-1 against the spread. Against bottom 10 offenses, 12-2 against the spread. And yes, some of those data points are when they had the full roster. They're obviously sitting people now, but they've been covering against bad offenses, even with the second unit out there. Now, again, you might be thinking, well, Kyle, on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Raptors have been playing some decent defense, and if the Jazz throw their second unit out there like they have been, they're not going to be able to score. And understand if that's your point of view, but check this out. Where has Toronto been struggling on the defensive side of the ball recently? In the paint. In fact, in the last 10 games, this is the worst defense in the NBA in the paint. 30th in defensive efficiency. And check this out. Utah against bad paint defenses. Bottom 5, 4-2 against the spread. Bottom 10, 10-2 against the spread. So Utah's been good against these teams that can't protect the paint. And there's even more angles I like for the Jazz here. If we flip it back over to the other side of the ball, where has the Jazz defense been absolutely terrible? The 3-point line. I mean, they've been absolutely awful. In the last 10 games, they've gotten lit up from the 3-point line. Toronto's one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the NBA. Utah against bad 3-point shooting teams. Bottom 5, 6-1 against the spread. Bottom 10, 14-5 against the spread. So Utah's been very profitable against these bad teams. Now we get to the injuries, and are you ready for an absolute crime scene here? So we'll start with Utah, and surprisingly, the other team is worse. But we'll start with Utah. No Markkanen, no John Collins, no Jordan Clarkson. Keontae George on the report listed as probable. On the Toronto side, they are sitting everyone apparently. Jakob Poeltl's out, Brandon Ingram's still out, RJ Barrett's not going to play here, no Grady Dick. I mean, the Raps are sitting almost everyone in this one. So when it comes to betting this game, I really don't get the line movement here. I took Utah at 4.5. I also took the money line. I like the matchup for the Jazz. The Raptors are resting everybody. This is another game where the market's moving against me, but you know what? That's back-to-back days now where one of my favorite bets, the market moved against me. Spurs -5 against Brooklyn, that hit, and then Rockets -5 against the Pelicans, that hit as well. So this is 3 days in a row where one of my favorite bets, the market moves against me. Whatever. I'm rolling with the Jazz. I don't know who's buying this number up, but I'm on Utah. I actually think they have a good shot of winning outright. Next, Memphis is on the road in Dallas. These two teams have split so far this year. The Mavs won in Dallas. The Grizzlies won in Memphis. Both games stayed under the total. But honestly, these games were back in January, and as you know, the current Dallas rotation is a complete mystery. We don't know who's going to be out there. There's all kinds of question marks. One thing I think we can all agree on is the current Dallas Mavericks rotation. They're going to struggle to score points. Even against a bad Memphis defense, they're going to struggle to score points. In the last 5 games, the Dallas Mavericks are 29th in the NBA in offensive efficiency. And Memphis has really taken advantage of these bad offensive teams. Against bottom 10 offenses, they're 18-7 against the spread this year. I think the logic behind that is Memphis offensively, they're going to score points on anybody. Whether they play a great defense, a bad defense, Grizzlies are going to score points. So when they see these bad offenses that aren't able to keep up, they're having a lot of success. 18-7 against the spread against these bottom 10 offenses. So it makes sense to me. Look, I know Jaren Jackson Jr. is still out for Memphis, and I know this Grizzlies team has been terrible, but I mean, I still blind faded Dallas at open. I got Memphis at -8.5. It's at 10.5 now. I'd say I'd probably still play it. But yeah, I'm on the Grizzlies in this one, -8.5. Next, Portland is on the road in Oklahoma City here. The Thunder have taken all 3 matchups so far this year. Portland's actually covered the last 2, though. The last 2 times these two teams met, OKC was laying 14 points and 13 points. Both games landed on 10. So betting Portland, you're 2-0 against the spread the last 2 times they played the Thunder. But here's the thing. That was the old Portland team. This new Blazers team, since DeAndre Ayton went down with an injury, they're built a little differently. The way Portland is currently playing, it's just not a great matchup here against Oklahoma City. Not that they've been bad, but the way they're currently playing is just a bad matchup against the Thunder. I mean, they're running a fast pace, and they're scoring on the interior. Check this out. In the last 10 games, they're 9th in offensive efficiency, 8th in pace. Oklahoma City has been unstoppable against these types of teams this year. Against fast-paced teams, OKC's 8-1-1 against the spread versus the top 5 in pace, top 10 in pace, 13-3-1 against the spread. Against good offensive teams, top 5 in offensive efficiency, OKC's 5-2 against the spread. Against top 10 in offensive efficiency, 14-2 against the spread. Portland's going to try attacking the interior and scoring in the paint in this one. Good luck with that. Oklahoma City against offenses that attack the paint, top 5 in paint frequency, 9-3 against the spread, top 10, 17-7 against the spread. So I know Portland looks pretty good, and I know you can also point at Denver on deck, because Oklahoma City does have a huge game against the Nuggets on deck, national TV, ABC. It's on Sunday afternoon. It's 2 days away. I mean, it's a good matchup for Oklahoma City. They should beat them comfortably. Be Oklahoma City or pass here. Next. Okay, so we got some injury updates in this one. On the Portland side, no Ayton still. Delano Banton's also out. Advey is, he's listed as questionable. Jeremy Grant also on the injury report. He's listed as questionable. On the Oklahoma City side, they're resting everyone. I mean, they're clearly looking at the this is clearly a look-ahead spot. I said that before, not knowing this was going to happen. About 45 minutes after I recorded, they ruled everyone out. SGA's out, Dort's out, Jalen Williams, Hartenstein, Kasem. I mean, you name it, they're resting everyone here. So, yeah, I mean, obviously this is a pass. Minnesota's on the road in Miami. These two teams have played only once this year. It was 4 months ago, so honestly, who cares? Miami did win the game, 95-94, so a super low-scoring game. Miami won. Not really relevant. It was all the way back in the beginning of the season, but worth mentioning. As far as how these two teams are playing right now, it's actually pretty much dead even. Check this out. So in the last 10 games, offensive efficiency, Timberwolves 13th, Miami 15th. Defensive efficiency, Minnesota 11th, Miami 14th. Strength of schedule, 2nd to 5th. against the spread record in the last 10. 6-4, 6-3-1. So weirdly, these two teams have just been dead even on paper in the last 10 games. One matchup I do like for Minnesota here is on the perimeter. Minnesota's been launching threes all year. In fact, in the last 10 games, they're third in the NBA in three-point frequency. I think they're second on the full season, too. So Minnesota's right up there with the league leaders as far as three-point frequency. That's been a glaring weakness of the Miami defense. They're really struggling to defend the three-point shot. So Minnesota should have some opportunities to hit some outside shots here. The problem is when you flip it over to the other side, you can make the exact same point. I mean, out of nowhere, we're seeing the Heat bury some threes recently. Look at the last 10 games, last 5 games. Miami's starting to hit some outside shots. Minnesota lets their opponents get a lot of looks from outside, especially without Gobert. So if Gobert is unable to return, Miami's going to have plenty of opportunities to hit some threes themselves. Injuries in this one on the Minnesota side. Rudy Gobert is listed as questionable. They might be getting him back. He's missed the last few games. They definitely need him too. They've missed him on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll have to wait and see if Gobert makes his return. On the Miami side, we got question marks everywhere. Tyler Hero, Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, Hamiakis Jr. They're missing both bigs. They still got Adebayo, but Ware and Jovic both ruled out. So Miami not in great shape here. As far as betting this game, I mean, it's tough with all the question marks, but personally, I think 216 is a little low. I would have it closer to 220, so I'd probably bet the over here. I don't have a bet in the game, but if I was to bet it, I'd be taking the over. Next, San Antonio on the road in Sacramento here. These two teams have played 3 times this year. Spurs took the first 2. Kings got them pretty violently the last time they met. That being said, these two teams haven't played since December, so this is pretty much irrelevant because both these teams are pretty dramatically different than they were back in December. As far as how they're playing now, no question, Kings have been the significantly better team. Actually, in the last 10 games, the Kings have been a top 10 team in the NBA. Top 5 team in the last 5 games, both on both sides of the court, offensive and defensive. So the Kings have been playing well. Obviously, we do have to mention the strength of schedule. They're 29th in the last 10 games, 22nd in the last 5. So they played a bit of an easy schedule, but still, we don't want to take credit away from the Kings. They are playing some ball right now. In this particular matchup, the Kings have a glaring advantage on the boards here. In the last 10 games, the Kings are a top 5 rebounding team in the NBA. In the last 10 games, the Spurs are a bottom 5 rebounding team in the NBA. So the Kings should absolutely dominate the glass on both sides of the floor here, which is obviously a positive. But here's the thing. Kings have not been profitable against bad rebounding teams so far this year. Against bottom 10 offensive rebounding teams, they're 6-11-2 against the spread. Against bottom 10 defensive rebounding teams, they're 8-14-2 against the spread. So the Kings haven't even taken advantage. They're a great rebounding team. They got the significant advantage on the glass. They haven't been profitable against these bad rebounding teams. Another positive angle for the Kings here is the Spurs are an offense that like to get out in transition and run. On the season, they're 6th in the NBA in transition frequency. No team in the league has allowed fewer points in transition than the Sacramento Kings. They've allowed the fewest points per game in transition of any team in the NBA. So that should be a positive matchup for the Kings. Spurs might not be able to get out and run on them. But again, how have the Kings performed in these types of matchups? Against the top 10 in transition frequency, they're 7-10-1 against the spread. So another positive angle for the Kings, but hasn't been profitable to bet them in these spots. Look, on paper, I think this is a great matchup for Sacramento, but betting on the Kings just hasn't been a good investment this year. Not to mention there's no Malik Monk, there's no Sabonis either. They did play Denver without both those guys. They played them down to 6 in Denver, so they played Denver tough without these two guys, but there was no Aaron Gordon for the Nuggets, so I really don't know what this Kings team looks like without those two pieces, so tough to make a prediction right now. As far as betting this game, I mean, I guess now that it's at 5.5, I'd lean San Antonio, but I mean, I really have no idea. I'd say there's no chance I'm betting this one. Next game. Phoenix is on the road in Denver. These two teams have played 3 times this year. Denver took 2 of them, but the Suns did get them once on Christmas Day, and they actually played that game without Devin Booker against a full-strength Nuggets team. So Christmas Day was a nice win for this Suns team. As far as how they're playing right now, we do have to give the Suns a little bit of credit. The offense looks good. They're 3-2 against the spread in their last 5. Offensive rating up close to 121, over 61% true shooting percentage. And it's not like this Nuggets defense is anything special. I mean, the defense hasn't been terrible for Denver, but it's certainly not great. This is a Nuggets defense that struggled with spot-up shooters all year, which is exactly the type of offense we expect to see here from the Suns. So at first glance, I was actually thinking this is a solid matchup for the Suns offensively to continue this little offensive hot streak they're on. But when I took a closer look at this Suns, let's call it a hot streak that they've been on offensively, not a ton of great defenses here in the recent schedule. I mean, they played the Pelicans twice, terrible defense. Memphis defense has been terrible. They played Memphis. Clippers are a great defense, but not recently. They're 20th in defensive efficiency in the last 10. Toronto's defense has been pretty good. That's the game they lost. They lost to the Raptors, so the only decent defense they've seen recently they lost to. Spurs defense, terrible. Bulls defense, terrible. So the Suns offense has looked great. They played a lot of bad defenses recently. So even though Denver's defense is not exactly a unit that scares me, you could make the argument that this will be one of the toughest defenses the Suns have seen in a while. And if you rewind back before the All-Star break when Phoenix was seeing some tougher defenses, the offense wasn't looking nearly as good. Granted, we do have to mention Kevin Durant missed a few games in there. Booker missed a game, so they weren't exactly fully healthy through that stretch. But no question, if you rewind back before the All-Star break, Suns offense wasn't cruising like this. Now, on the other side of the court, I mean, this isn't even a discussion. We're talking about one of the best offenses in the NBA in Denver. They've been one of the best offenses in the NBA all year against legitimately one of the worst defenses in the NBA, and they have been all year. We're talking top 5 offense against bottom 5 defense here. This year's Denver's team is an offense that loves to get out in transition. The Suns are legitimately one of the worst transition defenses in the NBA and have been all season. I mean, the Nuggets are putting up points. There's no other way to say it. So, yeah, in my opinion, Denver's got to be the play here. They should have no problem scoring points. The reason I haven't bet it, we got Aaron Gordon listed as questionable, and he just missed the game the other night. So we really don't know if Aaron Gordon's going to play. And also, Jokic is on the report listed as questionable. I'm not laying 7.5 with the Nuggets unless I know Jokic is playing. So Nuggets minus 7.5. Haven't bet it. Next. Last game up is Knicks Clippers. And obviously, the Knicks game just ended against the Lakers. Went into overtime. Brunson got hurt. I'm reading it's not that serious, but I doubt he plays in this one. A lot of moving pieces here. The Clippers have been terrible. We'll talk about this one on the live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, if you're able to make it, would love to see in the comments. If you want to go see all the bets I personally have open, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on open bets. Then click on sauce and you'll see all mine there as well as everyone else in the staff. Let's have ourselves a good Friday night. Keep the positivity rolling. Please remember to bet responsibly. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me.